Alright, so in this video we're going to look at generating a hosted feature layer. So this is a layer that is basically a vector layer stored in ArcGIS Online, and specifically we're going to set it up so it's possible for individuals to edit into the layer or add features into the layer. Our use case or scenario is going to be for geologic mapping. So we're going to create a layer where individuals can collect survey points for the generation of geologic map data. Okay, so to create a hosted feature layer, you can, when you're in your content, you can go to New Item, and then go to Feature Layer. Now there's a couple options here. You can select an existing layer, use a template that, like, for example, someone in your organization developed, or Esri developed, or you developed, link to a URL. We're just going to define our own layer. This is just going to have one layer in it. We're just going to call it Geo Map Points, and we'll maintain a point geometry as opposed to a line, a polygon, or a table. Which, in the case of a table, it would maintain the spatial information. It would just be a table. And then add GPS metadata fields means that it can collect GPS metadata. This is useful if you're going to be using this for field collection. So in this case, if it was a real use case, it would kind of make sense to turn that on. However, we don't really, we're just doing this for a demo. I'm going to delete it, so I'm just going to turn that off. And enable Z values would allow it to maintain the Z or elevation coordinates. That would make sense also, but we don't need to do that again in this case since it's just for demonstration. Okay, then you can get, it has a name, save to a folder. I'm just going to put geologic mapping as a tag. Again, if you're really doing this, you'd want to put really useful tags and probably a nice concise summary, but I'm just going to put one tag there for now. Alright, so now I hit save and it's generating that layer. Okay, so now it's going to load the drop page, and we can do some more configuration to this layer before we actually try to use it or add it to a map or an app or whatnot. Okay, so first off, we want to set this up so people can edit into it. So I'm going to go to the Settings tab here, and I'm going to set this as a public data collection layer. So approve this layer to be shared with the public when editing is enabled. So this means that if it's shared with the public and people have access to the data in an app that references it, they could potentially write into it. Save. All right, so that's save that. And then down here we have some options associated with editing. So if you have enable editing turned on, then that allows people to edit. There's a couple other options here. You can keep track of changes that are made, keep track of who made those changes, and you can enable sync. Enable sync is when somebody's collecting data and they don't have like a connection where the data can be synced to ArcGIS Online like in real time. So instead, the data can be cached to their device and then uploaded once there's an internet connection. So obviously that can be useful for field collection. What kind of editing is allowed? So you can change this, but right now we have it set up so that anyone can add, delete, or update. So for example, if you only wanted to set it up so users could add new points, they couldn't delete or update existing points, then you could turn these off. I'm actually going to do that in this case. So right now the user can just add data. They can't delete or update data. We'll leave it so that everyone can see all features. You can also set it up so they can basically only see the ones that they add. In this case, it might be useful for them to have access to all the features, so they may not be like collecting data that's just duplicates of other field data that another like geologist or field technician had collected. And that's basically it, I think. So that should set it up. We'll hit save there. Okay, so this should be set up basically for editing. Now there's a few other things that we want to do. So if we go back to the overview page, we're going to change the share settings from just me to the public, so everyone. So anyone who has access to it could edit into it. And it's saying you are making your editable layer public for optimal performance in data integrity. Please consider disabling editing or using a non-editable version. So we'll do update. There we go. So now we have this public data collection tag kind of added to this. All right, so the other thing that we want to do is um, add some fields, right? So right now, the only thing that has is an ID field. So we're going to go from the table view here to the fields view, and we're going to add some stuff. So first thing I want to add is a unit. So we're going to call it unit name. We'll do unit name. And then the field name is what's stored in the table. The display name is a cleaner, more readable name, so it can have spaces and whatnot. So we're going to we'll just do name of unit. And we'll make it a string. 256 should be long enough. We won't have a default value. And let's turn off allow null values, so the user has to provide a unit name. Okay, so now you can see that got added. Let's add another unit. We'll call this the let's do the kind of standard stuff. So we have the unit name. So they probably want to be able to calculate the strike. And I'm going to make this just uppercase version, and that's going to be a double. So we have decimal places, and we won't let them not fill that in. So we'll add new field there. And then we'll add a dip field. Again, this may not mean much to you if you're not a geologist, but that's okay. It's just an example. And again, we won't allow that. Okay. And then maybe we want the user to be able to say whether or not the unit is overturned. Not sure if that's one word or not. And we'll leave that as a string. And that should do it, and we'll make them fill that in. And let's add a column for the collection date. So let me show you something here. So I'm going to put date there. And that didn't work. Let me try with uppercase. Oh, here we go. The field name cannot be the same as an SQL keyword. So that's like a kind of like a reserved word. So you can't use that. So we could do like collection date. That should work. And then let's do date collected. And we'll change the type here to a date. And let's allow people to not have to fill that out. So we'll leave allow null values selected there. And then lastly, let's add in a comments field. So collector, let's do user comments, and then comments. And we'll make this a little longer so they could provide a longer statement if they wanted. And then we'll let them, they may not have comments, so we'll let that be null. Okay, so we have a unit name, a strike, a dip, overturned or not, data collected, and date collected, and then comments. Okay, so I'm good with that. Note that if you go to visualization, it shows you the data like in a map, but there is no data in this layer yet. We haven't drawn into it. And usage has to do with the usage of the layer, which again, there's no real data there. Okay, so that worked. So I think we pretty much have what we want other than a couple odds and ends. So first off, there are some limitations about what a user might be able to put into some of these fields. So let's say that there's only a handful of units that are in the area that they're being mapped. So you want the user to be able to only select from that subset of units. Also, strike and dip only maybe should exist in a certain range of values. So compass varying, or angle of rise, so like whatever. And then also, the overturn is basically binary. It's either yes or no. So we can control what people can put in those fields by specifying basically domains. So either unique value domain or coded value domain, or arranged value domain. So we go back to data here and field. If we click on one of these objects, let's start off with the unit name, then we can specify like allowed values that can go into that field. And I'm just going to make up some units here. So we'll just call it, let's see, Maxwell Sandstone. So that's the display or clean name, and then we need like a simpler name. So we'll call it M Sand. And let's see, I'm just gonna make up a few. We'll do, let's see, Preston Limestone. Again, these are all just made up. Let's see here, the Morgantown Shale. And what else? Maybe there's a Dullstone, so we'll do the, let's see, Tigert Dullstone. All right, so there's 4 types of rocks units. Again, these are just made up. So now, if we click save here, then now the user should only be able to select one of those names. Strike is something that should be maybe like a compass bearing. So we could set a min and max value here. So we'll set the minimum to, let's just do 0, and then a maximum of 360. So compass bearing. We'll save that. And then we'll do, that's good. And then dip is like an angle rise. So we'll do a minimum there of 0, and then a maximum of like vertical. So 90. And then for overturned, we want to set, we'll do create values again, and we'll do basically yes and no. How about is, let's see, do is overturned, yes, and then is not overturned, no. Okay, so that should control what we, provide some controls over what people can actually put into the fields. Okay, so let's go back to overview now. Let's say we want to be able to add like images, right? So we'll do this, and we just want to make sure. So we're clicking here on the sub layer that's inside the hosted feature layer here, the points layer, and I just want to make sure this enable attachments is on, and it already is. So that means people should be able to upload like images associated with a data point. Okay. So the next thing to do before we finish up here is let's make sure that we can actually edit into this. So I'm going to do open in map viewer. So this is going to open up a new map with that layer in it. Note that you can do some symbology. So since we have like unique values, we could do symbols here. We could do add field and do name of unit, add, and then type, so then we could have a different color point for each unit type, for example. We could play with this more, but we'll just leave that alone for now. Okay, so let's zoom in a little here. Let's change like a base map to something else. Let's use images. So again, this is all just made up, but let's go to Morgantown area here, and we'll say that maybe we collected a measurement. Save that there. So let's just make sure that we can edit. So we want to go back to our layers, make sure we're clicked on this. If we go over here, there should be an edit option, and we want to do a new feature, and we'll say we collected a data point here, and then we should be able to fill it out. So now you can see we only can select from our unit names. Use sandstone there. If I try to put in a number that's outside the range here, it'll tell me it's invalid. So we'll just do, doesn't matter, we'll do 70. And same thing with dip here. So we put like 200 in there, it'll yell at us. Or like negative 20. So we'll say, it's just like 13. And we'll say is not overturned. We could specify a date, a collection date. We'll just use the current time here. And let's see here. Well exposed betting contact. I don't know. And then if we want to add an attachment here, like if you were on a phone or something, you could access your camera or your local files here. I mean, again, I could just grab a photo or something and I could attach it to it. Just grab a photo real quick. This isn't going to make any sense. This is not this area, but that's okay. Do add. And then create. Okay, now if I, let's see here, go out of editing mode, click on this, we should now see that we have our attributes filled out there, and then we have a picture. Again, this has nothing to do with this. This is not this location, just a quick little example. All right, so that's an example of creating a hosted feature layer in ArcGIS Online.